jump in.
Yeah.
We're starting.
First of all, how do you feel getting cut out of barbed wire? You see the nose getting fractured.
I mean, it was a war for sure, and there's plenty of cuts and bruises and stitches. I have stitches actually in my inner thigh, which I've never had before, which is a little too close for comfort. But yeah, man. I mean, like I said, it was pretty brutal, but it's kind of what we do. It happens sometimes. So I think everyone enjoyed it, and once again, I think those types of matches are good for the wrestling business because people get a little bit too like, oh, it's not real, it's this and it's that, and then suddenly you have to get cut out of barbed wire and it changes people's perception. So I think it's good to do that once in a while. Now, will I ever have another barbed wire match? I'd like to say no. I've had 2 in my career, 30 years apart, so maybe in another 30 years I'll have another one.
So that was going to be my follow-up question. 30 years, later, what still motivates you to say, all right, we're going to do a barbed wire match and we're just going to go all out?
Well, it's all about the storytelling. That's the most important thing about wrestling is storytelling. It's why people want to watch. If you can connect with the audience with a great story, people will watch. It's the same as a movie or anything like that, a TV show or a comic book. So it fit the story of what we were doing. We didn't just throw it out there like, do a barbed wire match just for the hell of it. It's like it really kind of fit the character of Eddie Kingston. It fit the violence of the feud that we had for 8 months. And I thought it was a great kind of way to end this chapter of the story. So I wouldn't do it just for the hell of it, just to, roll around in barbed wire and get your hair caught into it. I mean, I don't need to be doing that for fun. But it really kind of was a great way to kind of culminate this awesome story that we told. That's the motivation. And anything I do, it's the same reason when, I was just talking about Cassidy 2 years ago, we had a Mimosa Mayhem match where we fell into Mimosa instead of barbed wire. But it fit the storyline we were telling at the time as well. So I'd much rather fall into a vat of orange juice and champagne than barbed wire.
I feel like over the course of your career, you've reinvented yourself so many times, not in such a dramatic way, but in just subtle ways that have been really, really cool. So what's it been like to be able to bring out this new personality at Paymaker and just be able to bring a different side of yourself at this point in your career?
It's very much influenced by David Bowie, right? I've always been a big fan of his, not just music, but his whole persona. Always changed who he was. Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, Thin White Duke, Let's Dance guy. Even right before he died, he had a new character, Button Eye. And I just always thought that was cool because you could go to a Halloween party with your friends and everyone could dress up as David Bowie, but they'll have a different costume and you would know who it was. And I've kind of designed Chris Jericho that way as well. Every Halloween, people dress up as Chris Jericho and I'll post pictures, but it's all different eras. You could go with your friends and everyone wears a different Jericho costume, but you would know who that was if you knew wrestling. So Painmakers is a character I created in Japan. I wanted a darker vibe, and I thought, what would a serial killer look like if he was a ghost? And that's where the whole kind of thought process started. And even now with the Painmaker graphic novel that I'm doing, it's like it lends himself to a comic book character. Because I thought, like, how many Spider-Man, Batman, Superman movies can you make? Somebody has to create a new superhero somewhere. And that's when I came up with the Painmaker kind of origin. We'll take this wrestling character and put him into a graphic novel where now he's an intergalactic serial killer that's reformed himself and now travels the galaxy killing other serial killers. But he still has an urge to kill innocent people and does, which then makes him flawed and an anti-hero. And I just really love the idea of it. Let's do it. Let's make a fucking movie, right? Why not? I started my own career. I started my own band. I became a wrestler and said I could. Well, it's down right now. You will see a Painmaker movie at some point. Yes. Someone has to create it somewhere. So that all came from this character that I could play in the ring, transferred to comics, graphic novels, and further and beyond. But once again, I think that's important to continue to evolve and reinvent yourself, and not just within wrestling, but within other fields as well. So I'm kind of really excited about that side of things too.
Yes, I became a big AEW fan during the pandemic because there was nothing else going on in my life. I was immediately, captivated. Your storyline through that was so creative. As a showman, not having must have been something. difficult, but you came up with so many great ideas. Obviously, the MJF singing in Vegas. I mean, what was some of the process of coming up with that stuff?
Well,
and developing it, right?
here's the thing, like, you know, you could look back on that with a gilded eye and go, that's terrible. But what we were doing was perfect for the time, because none of us knew what was going on. We were just trying to keep people entertained. That's literally what we were trying to do. And even ourselves, none of us knew what to do. You know, remember the 2 weeks flatten the curve thing? Like, holy smokes, now we're, you know, 18 months wrestling in front of nobody, but we still have 1 million people watching at home. So we have to we can't save things like, oh, we'll wait until people come. Because now we don't know if people are ever coming back, so let's just go all out because there's people watching at home. But let's be entertaining. That's why we came up with all that stuff. I mentioned the Moments of Mayhem, the Dinner Debonair, the whole dance sequence that we did. It's like to me, that's part of pro wrestling as well. Now, some people hate it, that's fine. I just posted it last night, the Slammies, Vince McMahon singing Stand Back with, like, in this world, all wrestlers can play instruments. He's got the Killer Bees on the horns and Macho Man's on the trumpet and Hulk Hogan's on bass. It's like, well, of course, because it's just like the Happy Days where Richie's gang all played music. Well, of course they can. Why couldn't they? So that's what I wanted to do with the Dinner Debonair. Let's do a full-on, dance routine, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. thing, or let's do, the Bubbly Bunch that we were doing for a while. We do little skits and let's just have some fun with it, because we don't know when we're coming back. So when you look back on it now, it's like that's kind of weird. But when at the time, like you said, it really kept people entertained, and I thought we did a great job of it, and still had great matches as well, even with no people. Like, that was so hard. It's like being a stand-up comedian telling jokes to a wall. You're not getting any feedback. Am I funny? Like, am I even over anymore? Is this even working? Am I selling too long, too short, too much, too little? You don't know, because the crowd is what really gives you that indication of what you're doing, if it's right or wrong. So once again, it's good to hear that it was a highlight for you, because we really were going all out to make sure that people could be entertained, at least for 1 or 2 hours a week, whatever it was. You could turn away from all this horrible news that was going on and just enjoy yourself.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Throughout your historic career, Chris, you've done it all, multiple time champion. Within AEW, the two groups you've been in with, Jericho, Appreciation Society, what group has really impressed you to continue being inspired and continue to want to keep going?
Well, AEW is what's inspiring. The creatively, from a love of wrestling, like, it really did kind of fall. Not that I ever didn't like wrestling, but it was becoming more and more of a job, which is why I left WWE in the first place and went to New Japan. And that's where I was like, holy smokes, I can actually be an artist again. And then AEW started up with the exact same attitude. It really just lit a whole new fire for me. I think one of my biggest goals, it still is to build up as many guys as I can, especially in the early days. Early days of AEW, it was on my shoulders completely. The first 3 months, in my opinion, I was basically the only guy that the mainstream really knew, and Jim Ross. You might have seen Cody a few times, but he wasn't the Cody that he is now. He wasn't on national TV. Ring of Honor didn't count. So I had to build as many stars as I could within a short period of time, because I know you've only got so many weeks. People will tune in and they're either into it or they won't. I did it in New Japan. Let me go to New Japan and work with this Kenny Omega that most people don't know here, and suddenly then when they'll see Kenny Omega and they'll see this whole new world of wrestling just blow their mind, and that's what happened. So we work with Kenny, Hangman Page, Orange Cassidy, Darby the first 3 weeks, Scorpio Sky, Cody, bringing in Mox. Mox was not the same guy then as he is now. And let me do a faction and build these guys just by being associated with me. Sammy, Ortiz, Santana, reinventing Jake Hager. That was the goal. And then when that storyline ended, they bring in some other guys to work, Danny Garcia, Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, having Sammy come back, putting some girls in with Ty Conti and AJ. Let me build as many people as I can just by association. So both groups have been great. I never wanted the Inner Circle to break up. I wanted us just to disband and go on something else. But the storyline took us to this great breakup and the formation of a new faction, the JS. And once again, that was never planned. It just organically went in that direction. I always say, like, let the story lead you. And the story led us there. And suddenly we have this whole new cast of characters to play with. And it's exciting, and it's building those guys up as well. So that's kind of my goal with anything I do in AEW is to build as many guys as I can, and still keep myself relevant as well, obviously, because I have to be, because I'm still one of the top guys and top draws of AEW.
I want to speak to that about Sammy in particular. I think Sammy, from Inner Circle to JAS, I was going to say JIS for some reason, to JAS, his path has grown and just his stardom, and now you see that he's gotten so big that the crowd has turned against him, right? Just speak about what you've seen firsthand with him and the growth that you've seen in ring, out of ring, and now seeing the position that he's in now.
Night and day, he's maturing as a man, as a performer. He's really starting to understand the true nature of wrestling is, and that connection with the audience. It's not what you do, it's when you do it. And a lot of guys are experiencing that. When we first started, once again, there you're looking at a whole group of independent guys. And I get it, I understand moves are important. But then you get to a point where the moves aren't important. It doesn't matter. And that's the turning point where then you become a pro wrestler. When you start understanding the psychology of the business, that's when you start to really grow. I mean, it's like having Sam Punk with us. The matches he's had with all those guys are all learning. Like, guys, you don't have to do much. You can get so much more. It sounds like such an old-timer thing to say. Nick Bockinger told me that in 1992. You're doing too much. I was like, what does he know? And then I'm like, fucking Nick Bockinger, he knows everything. And, I think Sammy is starting to learn it. Jungle Boy learned it the first time he worked with me. Orange Cassidy learned it. That's, Darby and Sting are so good, and Sting can help Darby with that. And we're doing a really good job of pairing our younger guys with our older guys, which then keeps everybody relevant. Like I was saying, listen, you could have Chris Jericho versus Christian, or Chris Jericho versus CM Punk, or Chris Jericho versus Matt Hardy. We've seen that before. Then to me it becomes nostalgia. I don't want that. Let's do, Jericho with Eddie Kingston. We've never seen that before. Let's do Jericho with MJF. Let's build up MJF's name. That's kind of, to me, the beauty of pro wrestling is we can pick and choose anybody we want to work with, as long as there's some chemistry there and some potential to grow and build everybody.
I feel like I have to ask, of course, big news that came out. What's your reaction to the retirement of Vince McMahon?
I mean, I haven't worked there for 5 years, so he had a great run. I always enjoyed working for him, and I worked for Tony Khan there, so best of luck to him and best of luck to WWE, but I'm focused on building our company and making it bigger than WWE. Maybe this is a good way for that to happen. Or maybe not, but we've never really been concerned about what's going on there. Even when they sent out NXT to crush the hot young upstart, which didn't work out in their favor, we never paid attention really to what they were doing. We just worried about our own show, because that's the way that you grow and build and get better. Just pay attention to what we're doing, and are our fans enjoying it, and we bring in new fans. Because there's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of WWE fans that have no interest in AEW, and a lot of AEW fans have no interest in WWE. So, you have to try and still bring in new fans, but keep our fans happy with what we're doing as well. So there's an art form to that. I think we're doing a pretty good job.
On the flip side of that, what's it like working with Ring of Honor and having that kind of back and forth a little bit recently?
Once again, I mean, that's Tony Khan's kind of his baby, his plan. I know he wanted to be here today, but he has his pay-per-view. So, I'm really not involved in that, and if I'm asked to be there, then I'll be happy to. Just for right now, my job is to take care of the JAS and the stories that we're telling. Eddie Kingston, Santana unfortunately got hurt, Ortiz, but all of that stuff was orchestrated pretty much by me for the last 8 months. So that's what I've been concentrating on, and I think that's one of the things that Tony knows he can count on me and trust me to write great stories and tell great stories, and he gives his input, and we go with the flow. If I write 8 weeks of stuff, it doesn't mean it's locked in stone, but it gives you some direction, and then things change. Let the story lead you. So that's what I am most focused on, is the stuff that I'm involved in and the cast of characters surrounding me, to make sure that everybody gets a spotlight, everybody gets a chance to shine, everybody continues to grow and build their name in the story.
You're doing a great job with it today.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
First of the podcast, we have your health issues. Obviously, you die writing machine and everything. It's like, great.
Thank you.
So, I mean, how is that going? You keeping up with that? Or?
No, absolutely. I carry a scale with me, and I'm that guy. I weigh myself every morning. If I get over a certain level, a certain weight, then I'll do a full-on diet. And if I'm under, then I'll eat a pizza, But once again, I mean, it was a warning. Thankfully, it could have been a lot worse. I had a pulmonary embolism in December. And kind of kept it secret for a while, but I knew I would let the story out once I was completely clean bill of health. So once that happened, I went full on lungs, heart, blood test, colonoscopy, like you name it, every single thing you're supposed to get, I did. And part of that was losing some weight. And once I lost a little bit, I said, well, this is actually pretty easy. Let me just go as low as I can to a certain level. And like I said, once I hit that, I'm at 210 right now. Once I hit that, I was like, I still got to be on TV. I don't want to be a bag of bones. So that's kind of how it all happened. And it all really tied in with this Jericho Appreciation Society and the Eddie Kingston story. And had I not had this embolism, there probably would be a JAS, And had Eddie Kingston not broke his elbow, there probably wouldn't have been a JAS. Everything goes for a reason. So, like I said, I took the warning and took it very seriously, and I feel great. It's the best shape I've been in, and clean bill of health, and I'm off blood thinners now, just in time for the barbed wire. Literally the week before they took it off, and I was like, that's really cool. So 7 months later, I'm doing great. So. Thank you.
Chris, like I said before, huge career already. Actor, best-selling author, amazing podcast,
Gold record.
There you go.
Working with Kevin Smith and doing Kilgore's Here and James Allen Bob reboot. What kind of drove you to want to go into graphic novels now and do it as a blockchain sense? Like kind of like seeing Kevin Smith going with a Kilgore and saying, hey, I can do that too? Or
well, basically, the first movie I did with Kevin Smith was Kilroy Was Here. It's a horror anthology, and we did it about a year and a half before the pandemic. And then Kevin decided to release it as the first ever full-length feature film NFT. And I mean, when I first was told about NFT, non-fungible token. Fungible, I thought it was some kind of a mushroom, like a fungus. What is this? And what I learned is that if you don't know what an NFT is, you're like, what is this? If you do know what it is, there's a huge community that is very invested. And to me, it's almost like when we first started streaming. You had the DVD and you had the Blu-ray and you had your CD and your album, and then suddenly everything switches to streaming. And I think people at first were kind of like, what is this? There's no, it's like I remember 8-tracks went to cassettes and then I went to vinyl and I was like, well, I'm not doing this. It's the evolving media. So I really took interest in it and then released a couple Painmaker NFTs that sold very quickly. And then that's when kind of this whole graphic novel, an NFT graphic novel. Now the difference is a graphic novel is something you hold and read. An NFT graphic novel, it's changing and moving. It's almost like reading a movie. As you read this graphic novel, it's 3D. It's got stuff going on, and it's very much a modern version of what a graphic novel is. And that's kind of what really appealed to me. Let's stay ahead of the curve and ride the wave. It's like when I started Talk as Jericho, no one really knew what a podcast was. I remember Ozzy turned it down. He's like, no, Ozzy just likes to do regional radio interviews. Like, it's not the same thing. People didn't realize at first what it was, and that's why Talk is Jericho now, almost 10 years later, is one of the biggest podcasts in the world that now has over 2 million podcasts. Think of that, 2 million podcasts. And mine is top 200 because I was able to get in early and build up a fan base. So when people thought of podcasts, they came to me. Same thing with NFTs. Same thing with the Painmaker universe that we're doing it in the blockchain. It's going to continue to grow and build. And like I said, I want to stay ahead of the curve rather than I like a graphic novel that you can hold and read. So do I. But all the people involved in NFTs don't. And to me, that's exciting. So that's why I wanted to delve into it and start now rather than 5-10 years when everybody's doing it. If I start now, people will associate NFTs with Chris Jericho. And there's pushback and people that don't understand it, but they will.
Well, kind of a follow too with as being a comic fan, a lot of us are elitists and we like that physical book.
Of course, I agree.
Is there any talk of releasing Painmaker physically?
There is, yeah. And like you said, it's the same reason as our new Fozzy Record Boombox. We released it on CD, we'll release it on vinyl because there's still people that like having that physical copy. Hey, it's also great to sign. People love getting those signed at shows or at autograph signings or whatever. I get it. Believe me, I get it, man. still buy every Iron Maiden album on album because I have vinyl of every Maiden album vinyl in my collection. So I understand that. So yeah, I think having the full graphic novel is something you can actually hold and read that way is definitely in the pipeline as well. It's not as cool as the other one because the other one moves and forms and shifts and evolves, but there is a place for the actual physical piece as well.
Who is the artist out there?
Well, so I'm working with Semcor, which is the same company. So all this started through they produced Kilroy was here with Kevin Smith. And funny because Kilroy just got released a couple weeks ago. Once again, it's the first ever NFT movie, and I think they had like 5,500 tickets, which is the ticket buy. And they sold out like instantly. I couldn't even buy one. Like I can't even buy my own movie. Still haven't seen it. So that just shows the demand for it. So Semcor is the team that did the Painmaker NFTs, which were 20-second clips of the initial idea of the Painmaker when he saw this. You know, I said, well, have him get attacked by some kind of half spider, half scorpion. And when he gets attacked, that's when the Painmaker spikes come out and fire comes out of his eyes. And that's where I was like, this is really cool. Like, what if this half spider, half scorpion was some kind of intergalactic serial killer that the Painmaker has to kill because he's an intergalactic serial killer assassin. So you kind of, let the story lead you. So there's a team of artists at Semcor who do this. It's not like, it's just showing my age. It's not Marvel, Neil Adams or somebody like that.
I used to be Marvel's assistant.
Oh, nice. I was a huge Teen Titans fan. I did Teen Titans. But there is...
Best boss ever.
Oh, cool. There you go. But there's a whole team working on it. They come up with some great stuff. And now they're all kind of forming this and working on it together. They'll send me pages of art. And with the pages, like I said, are moving, shipping, and sculpting. And we're definitely all on the same, no pun intended, page of what we want to do with this and how we want to continue to build it. It's very cool. I've never delved into that world before. But it's right here. That's why, being here is perfect.
Now, welcome to Comic-Con.
Thank you.
Yeah, first one.